You're moving to Boise. This is a video you're going to want to stick around because it's going to become a series and it's an opportunity to be more personalized. Oftentimes when you guys watch videos, it's a structured video and it's only one topic and we can go into only so much detail. This video series is going to be an opportunity for you guys to come and ask your questions, and in the next video I will respond to every single question that is left in the comment section. But for this first one, obviously we don't have any specific comments, so I'm going to go through the top questions that I get, some of the major topics. We're going to go through 55 plus communities. That's one I get a lot. We're going to go through winter in Boise. That's one that I get a lot of questions on how bad it actually is in the Boise area. We're going to go through land options because I know a lot of you moving here want to buy homes on land. And then at the end, we're going to go through one of the #1 questions that I get when it comes to moving to Boise, and it's one of the most important aspects of moving to the Boise area. My name is Brady Fagel. I'm a Boise local and I'm a realtor, so I'm a real estate agent. If you guys have any questions, obviously leave them down in the comments because the next video I'll answer those questions specifically. But also reach out, shoot me a text if you're moving to the area, and know that if you reach out to me, you're gonna get me as your agent. I'm gonna be the one working with you, answering your questions, answering your texts, and personalize the experience. I'm not gonna pass you off to any other agents. And then subscribe to the channel if you find value in these videos going forward. That way you can stay up to date. But this first one that we're gonna jump into is a big question that I get all of the time, and that's land options. But we'll go ahead, we're gonna jump on the map to kind of walk you through some of the things that we see in the valley when it comes to buying homes on land. So I'll throw the map up here really quick and then we'll connect back. Okay, now I have you guys up on the map here, and as you see, I'll zoom into the Treasure Valley. So when it comes to land, just a general outline before we go into some of the homes is a lot of your land options that are gonna be, you know, smaller town feel in a smaller suburb with not as many people, and you're gonna have more options, especially more affordable ones, is gonna be out here towards Kuna, out here on the outskirts of Caldwell and Nampa, and then pretty much all of Middleton, Star, and then the back end of Eagle. When you're looking at a map, this is where you can kind of narrow down that search. But I'm gonna pull up Zillow, and right now I have pulled up some of the cheapest, most affordable homes on land. And so a reason this is a big question is I do get a lot of calls where people want 1/4 of an acre, they want 1/2 of an acre, and they expect prices that we had in 2019 and 2017 where they feel like they can buy a nice home on an acre and only spend $500,000. But as you'll see, this will give you guys a really good idea of what the actual expectations should be for moving to Boise, some of the areas, some of the homes that you can expect on 1/2 an acre or 1/4 of an acre or even an acre. So right now, as you can see, I have 1/2 acre homes selected, and this is from $550 to $350. So you can see that there is homes that are more affordable, but what I want you guys to see is to see that the homes that are available. So it's gonna be homes like this, where it's obviously not as nice. It's a little bit older, you know, your 70s, 80s homes, more run down. This is a great piece of property out in Kuna, but as you can see, it has that old shag carpet, this family loved green, and this is a lot of what you're gonna see, even in the more affordable areas like Caldwell. So I'll go to this one right here for $419. So even though this is on 1/2 an acre, it's gonna be old homes that need some renovation. The land might need some work. So you're not gonna have, you know, super nice houses that I think a lot of people who reach out are looking for. I'll look at one more in Middleton just to give you guys a really good idea. $550. So again, see, nice property. You obviously have your garage out back for some extra storage, or if you guys have 4-wheelers and RVs, which is nice, but again, an older home. So this is kind of what you can expect in that lower range from the $350 to the $550. But where most people want homes is, you know, newer homes, nicer homes. Your more standard home that we see is from the $600,000 to about the $900,000 range. And as you can see, so a lot of homes, like we talked about at the beginning, are gonna be in the Star Middleton area, out here in Kuna and Nampa, the outskirts of Caldwell, Nampa, and Kuna. But this is where you start getting into homes that are more livable, they're nicer. You don't have to renovate them. This one is a brand new home. This would be a build to suit. But you can see 775, 875. This one has a pool, 800,000. And some of the least expensive in here, I'll show you, we'll drop it down, is gonna be 650. And so even these are still a little bit older, but they're obviously a little bit more up to date than the homes we looked at in that 350 to 550 range. So this will give you guys a good idea and expectations, because I see it a lot where people come and they think they can spend $500,000 and live on half an acre. And these aren't even homes with a full acre. A lot of these are half acre lots, so you're not even getting that full acre. But it gives you guys eyes and ears and to actually see what to expect, because it's something I see a lot. People are often disappointed. They wish they thought that they could come here and move here for 500,000 on an acre closer to Boise. Obviously, if you get an hour and a half outside of Boise, sometimes you can find homes like that. And every once in a while, we'll get ones pop up closer to Boise. But this is what you guys can kind of expect in that 600 to 700,000 range. I'll pull up another one here and we'll go over to Middleton, which is a super popular spot. Middleton and Star are really popular for a lot of you guys moving here. You can see this one in Middleton, nice house, but it's small. So it's only 1,500 square feet, even though it's at that 615 range. So as you can kind of see, this gives you just a rough overview. This show going forward, like I said, is going to be more specific, and I'm going to actually call you guys out. I'm going to give you your names. I'm going to answer those questions, and it will be personalized to you. So if you have a question on, homes on land that allow horses or they have no HOA, then I can run through that, because most of the time, if one of you has a question, it will be helpful for everybody else moving here. Odds are there's a large portion of you who will want that question answered as well. The next question I want to go over is going to be 55 plus communities. So we'll pop up the map again, but this is a really big one. Is there's not as many 55 plus communities here as maybe other big areas that a lot of you guys are moving to, but we do still have a lot of really great options. So I'm going to run through all of the major options that people would want or would likely be looking at. Boise does have around 15 to 20 different 55 plus communities, but I'd say 90% of those are condos. They're older homes and not the nicest areas. They might be mobile homes and townhomes. So not your typical 55 plus community that I get a lot of you calling and asking about. These are going to be communities that are, single family homes, patio homes, 1,500 square feet to 2,500 square feet. They have the amenities, they're newer builds. And so we're going to run through all three of these different sections of Boise that are going to be the most popular, to give you guys a really good understanding of what is available out there right now. Okay, so I have the map pulled up. They don't have a filter for 55 plus, so I'm just going to have to take you through them, and I'll just show you on Google Maps actually. So you can see I was looking at Cadence earlier. So you have the Cadence communities. So you're going to have one in Century Farm right here, and we're going to go through these in detail in a second. But you have Bainbridge, you have Paramount, and those are going to be your three main Cadence communities. So you can see all three of them are in Meridian. One's in South Meridian and two are in North Meridian. Then you have one out here called Valor, which is a really awesome one. This is one of the coolest 55 plus communities. And then you have a new one called Milestone Ranch in Star, which is one of the most popular suburbs for people moving here that we're going to go through. Now that you guys have a good idea of kind of where those are at, I'll zoom in to give you eyes on the home. So Valor, this is a community that is new to the Kuna area. It's a full resort style community. So this has some of the most amenities in the Treasure Valley. As you can see from the map and as you can see from the drone footage, you have a resort style pool. There's a community center. You have 6 pickleball courts. You have a gym. They are building the bar and grill, which is supposed to be done in January. You have the golf course, which is Falcon Crest, And so you have an awesome golf community, which is great. And this is really just an awesome place. There's more amenities to come. There's going to be a community park. There's going to be a school in this community. There's going to be a culinary studio. There's going to be indoor pickleball courts, indoor golf simulator. So it's really full of amenities and it's not something you're going to find in any of the other 55 plus communities. This is one of the only 55 plus community that has that resort style community, other than a couple other old ones, but out of the new ones, this will be the one with the most amenities. And just looking at a few houses, they go from 370 all the way up to 770, and 1,300 square feet is going to be your smaller end on these homes. And in the Valor Trilogy at Valor is what it's called, is where you're going to have snow removal, you have front yard landscaping, and then you have a lot of small backyards. And if I can get one of these smaller homes pulled up, you can see these are townhomes. So your 370 range is going to be the townhomes at only 1,300 square feet, 2 beds, 3 baths. But as you'll see later with some of these other 55 plus communities, these are actually going to be some of your biggest 55 plus communities at some of the most affordable prices, which is really nice, especially with some of those amenities that you guys get. And again, if you guys have questions, shoot me a text or a call anytime. I'm really happy to help. And it really does help to have somebody that you can just reach out to and walk through a plan and keep an eye on some of these properties. But as you can see, Valor, a lot of these amenities, and you'll see as some of the drone footage is popping up. And then Valor also has a larger section for homes, 740,000, but you still get the 2,300 square feet. You get 3 beds, 3 baths, which is really hard to find in 55 plus communities. And so Valor, Trilogy at Valor is one of the nicest 55 plus communities in the Valley, in my opinion. One of the only downsides is the distance to some of the major things. So as you can see, Valor is right here. You are, a pretty good distance to the hospital. So you have St. Luke's here, you have St. Luke's downtown, you have St. Alphonsus here. So to the hospitals, it is a little bit farther. And then even just to get downtown is about a 30-minute drive or so, maybe a little bit more on, rush hour and when traffic's bad. So that'd be the only downfall to this community in particular, is you're gonna be a little bit farther away. When we get into some of the regencies, so cadence, the cadences in North Meridian are already sold out. So that'll be the ones up here in Bainbridge and Paramount. There's no new construction, and I'll show you the one of the 3 homes that are actually available there. And then the other one is Century Farms, which is just down from Trilogy at Valor. And that one is the Cadence at Century Farm. So Century Farm is a really nice neighborhood right here. And then Cadence is this section. And this is one of the only ones in Meridian that has new construction homes available. But as you're gonna see, 2 bed, 3 bath, 2,000 square feet. So a little bit smaller than the ones we were looking at Trilogy for 627. So comparable, but a little bit smaller at only 2 bed, 3 bath. And then the cheapest one in this subdivision is 540, and this is 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,600 square feet. So even though it's a single family home, unlike the townhomes in Valor, it is still a lot more expensive than that $370,000 price point in Trilogy at Valor. And all of the Cadence communities are going to be very similar. They're going to have the same amenities. You're going to have indoor pools, you're going to have pickleball courts, you're going to have deep snow removal. So if the snow is more than 1 inch or 2 inches, depending on the community, then they'll have snow removal come in. You're going to have landscaping in the front yards. But the Cadence communities are not going to be as full of the amenities like it is in Trilogy at Valor that we looked at. I'll run over to the ones in North Meridian and then we'll look at some of these locations really quick. But this Cadence in Bainbridge, as you can see, there's only 1 home available. One nice thing about this is Costco is right here, and then you have a bunch of restaurants. And then just down the street over here is Fred Meyer. You have Winco, so 2 other grocery stores with a ton of restaurants and stuff close by. So you're just a mile away from that, Costco, and then right down the street here is Walmart, which is super nice. This is one of the best locations in Meridian as far as being close to a lot of these things. And then a really nice thing too is you're right across the street from this super nice park in Bainbridge. But that home that is for sale in this Cadence is $498. It's a 1 bed, 2 bath, so you can see the drop in size of homes and the increase in price of homes in this North Meridian section because it's just a more expensive part of Boise. I'll hop over to Paramount, which is just down the street. And this is a small section here. You're gonna have the same distance, you know, right to Fred Meyer, Winco, and then Costco that we just looked at. But there's only one home in here. And again, you're gonna see 3-bed, 3-bath, 2,100 square feet for $580. So a little bit more affordable in here. But a lot of these homes are smaller and they're really, really close together. You don't have a backyard like you do in Trilogy at Valor. It's door to door. I mean, you can reach across and grab your neighbor's house. You don't have the yards that you do, the front yards with the landscaping. It's just, obviously you can see just some bushes, but still really beautiful homes. All of these 55 plus communities are going to be some great builders and have some really nice finishes. And then the last one that we have is over in Star. So I'll scooch out again. We had Trilogy at Valor over here. We had Cadence at Century Farm here, and then the 2 in North Meridian here, with your hospitals being here, and then downtown Boise. So as you can see, Valor is going to be a little bit farther away. All of these Cadence communities are within 15 to 20 minutes of a hospital, which is nice. And then the last one on our list is Regency at 10 Mile Ranch. So this is going to be by Toll Brothers, and it's going to be out in here in Star, which is a smaller community, but also one of the most popular suburbs in the Boise area. And as you can see, it's going to be very similar to everything we just looked at. You're going to have the pool, you're going to have the amenities, not quite as much as Trilogy at Valor, but you're going to have a lot more home options. This is a newer 55 plus, so there's a lot of build opportunity. There's a lot of move-in ready homes. They're not super tiny like we saw in Cadence at Paramount, where they're stacked up next to each other. You still get all of the nice finishes. Toll Brothers is a national builder that does have pretty good quality, and you have a lot of customizability with Toll Brothers. And you do get a little bit of a backyard, but they're going to be low maintenance. You don't have the grass, but at least you get a little bit bigger lot size than you do with some of the Cadence communities. They do have sections in here that are back to back, so your patio homes with the garage in the alleyway in the back. And these are obviously going to be more affordable. They're going to be smaller at 1,500 square feet with 2-bed, 2-bath. And so this should give you guys a good overview of the major 55 plus communities in Boise. There is a few other small ones here and there, but like I said, most of them are older homes. They're in the 90s or 2000s. A lot of them are condo living, townhome living, and not a lot of what people are looking for. Again, leave a comment though if that's something that you want answered. That's why this show that I want to create is something that I think is more personalized, where I can actually get to know you guys and answer your questions that you specifically have that aren't covered in any other video. This next section and next question I get a lot is Nampa, Idaho. So a lot of people think Nampa is a really awesome place. A lot of people moving to Boise want to move to Nampa, and when they do their research, they think Nampa is going to be an amazing place. And although part of that is true, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of details that I think can get left out with living in Nampa. So we're going to jump on the map again, and I'm going to try and give you guys a really good overview of kind of what you can expect in Nampa, what the actual feel is like, what the crime is like from a personal experience of living here for over 20 years. I worked in downtown Nampa for 3 years. I'm currently this house. If you've noticed the different backdrop, it's because I'm currently in a rental in Nampa right now while our house is being built. And so I kind of get to re-experience Nampa again, living out here, which has been a really good experience. But we'll hop on the map. So Nampa's a great spot. It's not going to be the best spot, and there is its issues. I'll start off with just the things that I've noticed living here recently is I forgot how bad the smell was. And so as you can see my location with this blue dot right here. The sugar beet factory is right here. And so with the sugar beet factory, winds are oftentimes going this way. So they're going kind of northeast, southeast. So this whole section right here gets a lot of the smell, and then right around the sugar beet factory. And if I could describe the smell, I would almost describe it as smelly feet or burnt cheese. I don't know, it's the most weird smell, and it is much more noticeable than I remembered. I hadn't lived in Nampa in almost 6 years. It had been since I had lived out here, so I kind of forgot how bad it was. But it is mostly centralized to this area right in here, and then the farther you get out, the more it fades away. But that is something that is a problem with Nampa. The next one is just the feel and the safety of Nampa. So this is the biggest thing, is people look into Nampa and then they call me and they say, how bad is Nampa actually? It was actually one on my list, but then I watched videos and saw that there's some crime issues in Nampa. And so now I'm worried about it. So I want to give a better understanding and kind of a more detailed view of what that's like. In general, just a top-down view, most of your crime and issues that you're going to be running into in Nampa are going to be in this area right here. So this is the downtown area, and this road right here can also have it, so it can even extend out into this. But this is where a lot of the old homes are. There's a lot of super cheap, under $300,000 price point. It's where the old downtown area is that was built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So it's just an older part of town. The more specific thing is, not only is this whole area bad, but the worst part of it, which if you look at like a sex offenders map, or you just talk to the community and you've lived here your whole life, this area right here is by far the worst of it. So this section downtown, but specifically where the railroad runs, and then everything north of the railroad is where it is the worst. It's where I worked downtown. And so in the downtown area I worked was right here. So obviously you can see we're backed up to the railroad tracks. We had that truck stolen from my office in the middle of the day. And then we found it just over the tracks right here. And being locals, the police, we knew it would take them forever to find the truck that was stolen. So at lunch, a couple hours later, we just drove across and drove through this area knowing that that is a bad part of Nampa. And we found it right here. So in general, what we've seen is there is gangs in Nampa, there is gangs in Caldwell, there is human trafficking, there's drugs, there are things going on. But when you hear those words, it can sound really bad. But if you look at it from a statistical standpoint and you compare Nampa to the national average, Nampa is actually pretty much par with the national average, or just slightly above in some areas, but it's not like it's way worse. And I know a lot of you are coming from California or you're coming from Portland. And I always say, if you compare Nampa, and especially the downtown area that we're looking at right now, it is comparable to probably like a moderately safe area. So maybe not like the best of the best safe areas in California or Portland or Seattle, but an area that like a lot of families live. It's pretty safe. You don't have to worry too much. That would be what I would say Nampa is compared to. Now, the other side of this is just the general feel. So, and we'll go over this towards the end when we go over that number one question, because that's one of the biggest questions I get, and it will kind of go over this again, but just on a Nampa scale, there's just a general feel in Nampa that's not as nice. So I don't know how to explain it other than when you go to the store, there's just a little hint of anxiety if your wife or your kid was to go to store. It's nothing bad, but it's enough that's noticeable if you've lived here your whole life. And if you've lived in Meridian and Boise and Kuna and Middleton and Star, you notice it just a little bit more in Nampa. There's just not quite as nice. There's just a little bit more unease when it comes to Nampa. But like I said, that is mostly in this area right here. When you get to the outskirts of Nampa, so I'll do this. So when you get to the outskirts of Nampa in this area, there's a lot of new subdivisions coming in along Lake Lowell. There's some Hayden Homes, there's Toll Brothers, there's some nice higher end builders, there's golf courses out here. It's a really nice part of Nampa. I have lots of friends that live out there. I wouldn't mind living out there, but I would choose other parts of the area of Boise over this area, especially because there's similar priced homes in other areas like Kuna where me and my wife live. But this is still a really nice area. It's just the thing is your grocery stores a lot of them are in this area. So you end up having to drive into Walmart or into Fred Meyer, which is right here. And so you still have to just deal with kind of that different feel of Nampa. The other thing is along here is all industrial buildings and commercial properties in the Nampa area. So it's not as nice looking. You have Amazon's warehouse, you have the sugar beet factory, you have a dairy factory, you have a ton of warehouses. And so as you drive through Nampa, it just doesn't look as nice. It's an industrial area, it's zoned for industrial use. And so that same feel of unease comes with it just feeling nice. The outskirts of Nampa do feel nice. You have older neighborhoods with shrubbery, you have Lake Lowell out here, and so it can be a great place to live if you want to save that money, or you don't mind that stuff as much. If you come and you visit Nampa and you get to experience that feel, it can be an amazing place to live, especially if you save, you know, 20, 30, $100,000 when you compare it to a place like Meridian or Star, where home prices are literally 100 to 150,000 more expensive in Star and Meridian. But hopefully that kind of overviews that Nampa thing, because I do get that a lot. The one last thing I would say about Nampa is this north area is pretty nice. You can see I'm right in here. Me and my wife, we don't mind living out here other than the smell. You have a lot of new subdivisions being built out here at a more affordable price. It's a newer area. You have a Costco, a Target, a ton of shopping centers here. You have the Idaho Center and Walmart and Winco and food here. And you have easy access into the interstate for your commutes into Boise. So that's another part of Nampa that is nice, is these two sections right here. But hopefully that gives you guys a better overview of what Nampa's like. Next, we're gonna talk about winter and what winter is like, because there's some big misconceptions with Boise winters. I talk about it in other videos, but I still get people reaching out and asking me about it because they just don't know for sure. So we're gonna go over that next. Now for winter, I just wanted to drive around a little bit, maybe give you guys an idea. So right now as of filming this, it's around November 12th. And so winter's starting to set in. It's setting in a little bit early this year. And this is part of where weather gets a little bit of a misconception here in Boise. So yes, Boise has harsher winters than California or other places, but I think it gets overestimated, and people think that we're kind of like a Midwest northern city that gets all of the snow and all of the super cold weather, but that's actually not the case. So right now it's November, it's about 45 degrees, it's been raining today, and this is a colder day than average. I'd say early November, mid-November, it's still usually in the 55-ish range. So right now we've just had kind of a cold snap. Last year at this time, it was still in the 50s and 60s. So it just depends year to year. But the biggest misconception I think comes with the snow. So not only is it a little bit warmer than I think people think, they assume, you know, we're in the north side of the country, we have these cold winters, but they think that we get a lot of snow. So if any of you guys know anything about Denver, people kind of compare it to Denver, but Boise's actually warmer and we get less snow in the winter than Denver does. We only get about 10 to 12 inches a year. So on average, I say this in other videos, it usually snows about 10 times a year. And most of the time it's just a skiff. It might be a quarter of an inch and it's melted by afternoon. And on average, every year we only get about 5, maybe 5. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3 days out of the winter where we get more than an inch of snow, and it actually causes a problem to the point that you have to shovel your driveway, you have to worry about driving, you might want to stay home because you're worried about driving on the icy roads. And so that is a big misconception. Boise winters are not nearly as bad as people would think. Your average temperatures in the winter, once we get into the colder months like January, it's usually averaging like 35 degrees for 1 month. It's not that bad. Most people are perfectly fine for that month. If it does get really cold, usually it's only a couple days, and it's not usually every year. So once every couple years, we'll get down into the teens, we'll get into the single digits, and it lasts a couple days and then it's gone. The bigger part of winter, which is part of why I wanted to drive around today, is because the inversions are the worst part of Boise. So when it comes to the inversions, it'll look kind of like it does today, and I'll flip the camera around for you guys, where it's cloudy, it's kind of gloomy, it's not nearly as sunny, and the air conditions can get kind of rough. So this is probably the hardest part of winter for me, is it can get a little depressing, it's a little dark. You got to really be sure to get out and exercise, go to the gym, make sure you're doing things to keep up on that. And then on top of the inversions, it can get dark. Right now it's November, it's getting dark by 6 p.m. And then by the time December 23rd comes around with the winter solstice, that's the shortest day of the year, it'll be getting dark right around 5:15-ish. And so the days are a lot shorter, and that can be hard on people. It's not necessarily the winter snow and the winter cold. It's more of the inversions and the weather as a whole. Now, when it comes to snow removal and driving, snow removal is usually pretty easy. 5 days a year, most of us can get out and shovel our driveway. And most of the time you just need a snow shovel. There's been a couple years, last year being one of them, and then 2016 was another one where we got a foot last year twice. And so that was a little bit rougher. It was a little bit harder to shovel your driveway, and you might want to get a snow blower. And then in 2016, the city had to step in, but that's a very rare scenario and it does not usually happen. And so realistically, again, the snow is something that I think most people don't need to worry about nearly as much. It's something that gets overblown here, and I think it's an important thing that I get people reaching out and asking me like, hey, how bad is the winters actually? And this is where sometimes visiting for a day or two, I just had some people the other day, they came out and visited Boise here in late October, and it was already a little bit too cold. They didn't want to move to Boise because they're like, yeah, winter is just gonna be too cold for us. But if you're worried about the snow, now you know. It's not that big of a worry. We're not Chicago, we're not the Midwest. Now we're gonna head back onto the map, onto the computer, and look at the biggest question that I get and one of the most important things. Okay, now that we're back talking about winter, we're gonna talk about one of the number one questions and the most important thing about moving to Boise. And I know that because it can make or break your move here, and people moving here, it is the most important decision, and that is the type of suburb. And so a question I get a lot is, hey Brady, I'm moving to Boise, here's what I'm like, what suburb is gonna be the best fit for me? What area should I look at? Whether you're visiting or you're just moving here without visiting, it's a really important thing to understand. And obviously the best way to do this is to come out and visit. But if you can't come out and visit yet, it's good to have a good understanding to kind of focus your search, do more detailed looks. And so we're gonna go through all of the suburbs, and I'm gonna talk about what type of person you are, if that's gonna be the best suburb for you, kind of generalize these questions. But again, this is an opportunity where if we're going through this and you want a specific question, comment down below so that in the next video, if you are someone like, hey, I was thinking of moving to Star, here's the type of person that I am, I love the outdoors, is that gonna be a good fit for me? Then in the next video, I can jump on and we'll go over Star and I'll go over why that might not be the case or why that might be the case. But anyway, we're gonna jump on the map again. And so just a general overview, we have the seven suburbs. We have Boise, of course, we have Eagle, we have Kuna, we have Star, Middleton, Caldwell, Nampa, and then a bonus where a lot of people live who want smaller town. They don't want to be near all of the big traffic and stuff in Boise. We have Emmett out here as well. Those are going to be the main suburbs that everyone is going to be keyed in on. And now I'm just going to run through, depending on what type of person you are, then I'm going to go over the suburbs that would probably match that and just keep going down the list for each general person that I get. Because a lot of people who move here are a very specific type of person, and it usually boils down to about 4 main categories. Some of those can intermix, but starting off is the small town feel. This is a big one. A lot of you guys, especially moving from California, you're moving here because you want to raise a family, you want to have a small town feel, you want a more conservative way of life, you don't want all of the busyness, and you want the safety. Thankfully, the safety thing all over Boise is going to be really safe, other than little parts that we talked about kind of with Nampa. But for the most part, if you're like that, the places you're going to want to focus are going to be Star, Middleton, Eagle, Kuna, and then possibly the outskirts of Nampa. But I would almost remove that on the list and just focus on Kuna, Star, Middleton, and Eagle. Those are going to be the places that are small town. They're going to not have nearly as many people. You're going to have a really conservative way of life. There's lots of families that live in those areas, and so it can be a great place to live. The difference between those ones is Star is, for whatever reason, all of you guys want to live in Star. It's a super popular spot right now. It's growing 10 times more than the other cities. It's grown at 80% over the last 4 years versus the next closest would be Middleton at 40%. There's a ton of new construction out there. It's super conservative. There's American flags and Trump flags on every house that I've talked about before. But one of the issues with Star is because it's grown so fast, even though there's only around 20,000 people there, you'd think that would be a small town, but all or most, probably 15,000 of you are squished into this small section. And so you only have realistically, you have Star Road you can get out of, and then Highway 55 or State Street. So all of you guys are taking these 1 or 2 roads to get out of the city and into the city. And to add on top of that, you have people driving from Eagle to get to Middleton, or Boise to get to Middleton. And you have people from Middleton driving through Star. And so what happens is, even though Star has only 19,000 people, to me, it feels way busier and bigger than a place like Kuna that has 40,000 people. Kuna has planned way better for this growth. The infrastructure is better, the roads are better. It's not nearly as busy. So me and my wife live in Kuna, and it feels like a smaller town than Star, even though it has almost twice as many people. And you get a lot of this farmland right in here. And so you're separated from Meridian, you're separated from Nampa, you're separated from Boise. You feel like you're off on your own, but you don't have as long of as a commute, which we're going to talk about commutes here in a second. But you have right down Meridian Road and then into Boise. So you're 30 minutes to Boise. You're really 20 minutes to like the village. A lot of stuff in Meridian right here. You have Shields and then another village that's coming. So big thing there that I noticed, that's a really common one that people want to know. Middleton can be too far for people who are small town people. It's probably one of the most small town cities. There's only about 10,000, 12,000 people there. So it does feel like a really small town, along with Emmett. But those two, Emmett and Middleton, are far commutes. So if you're a small town person that doesn't want 45 an hour, hour and a half long commutes, then you can take those off your list and focus on Star, Eagle, and Kuna. The last one on this topic for small town people is going to be the home prices. So Star and Eagle are going to have the most expensive. Eagle is by far the most expensive, median home there around 800,000 to 900,000. Star right now is getting up into the 600,000 range, so it's getting more and more expensive, especially as people move there. Kuna is more in the 440 range, so you can actually still find homes in Kuna there was one the other day for 340,000. That was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,100 square feet. In Star, as of filming this, there is no home under 400,000. That's a single family home. So you can see it's getting more expensive. And then home prices in Middleton are going to be very similar to Kuna. And Emmett has actually almost caught up to Kuna and Middleton. It's a little bit more affordable, but for the most part, Emmett, you're going to be running into about the same prices as Middleton and Kuna. The next category of people moving here is probably the people who want things to do. Meridian is where there's a lot of stuff to do, but you're not right in the heart of Boise. You have the village, you have Shields, there's grocery stores on every single block, surrounded by restaurants and bars and grills, which is super nice. You also have everything along Eagle Road. You have Topgolf, there's a water park here. You have the village that I mentioned, you have Trader Joe's, you have Target. There's a climbing gym here. So Meridian is going to be a really awesome place to live. You're also centralized. You're 10 minutes to Eagle, you're 15 to Star, you're 15 to Kuna, you're 15 minutes to Nampa, you're 15 to 30 minutes to Boise. And so you really get to be able to live in a smaller city suburb, and you can live on the outskirts and feel like it's not as busy while being close to all of the things that Boise does have to offer, which is a really big benefit. It's a really popular suburb for good reason. So if you don't want the small town feel, but you want things to do, Meridian's going to be on your list. Boise, of course, I'm not going to state the obvious. It's a really popular place. That's where a lot of the stuff is to do. You have the downtown area, you have the Boise River, you have all of the city parks, and then of course, you know, all of your event centers and stuff for concerts and comedians and everything like that is going to be where everything in Boise is. The next spot though is Nampa. So Nampa does have things to do. It's not going to be as busy as Meridian and Boise, but if you want kind of that mix, Nampa is going to be a good place where you have the Idaho Center, you have Costco and Target and things to do here. There's a civic center. Idaho Center has a ton of concerts almost every week, sometimes multiple times a week, where we have big singers, country singers, pop singers come in, we have speakers come in, and then you have little things to do. You have Lake Lowell. So that's going to be one where Nampa's a little bit of a mix. If you want to save on price, you want to be on the outskirts of Nampa out here that we talked about earlier in the video, save a little money, but still have some things to do, just not nearly as much as Meridian and Boise. The problem that comes with this is the traffic. Meridian, I drove through there yesterday actually during rush hour. For the first time I've done that in a long time. Usually I avoid it. And it took us almost an hour to get home to Nampa driving through Meridian because it just has not been able to keep up with the growth. There's a ton of traffic, a ton of backup. All the lights are 10-minute waits, sometimes more. And so that's going to be the downside to Meridian. Meridian can actually get busier than Boise City itself because a lot of people work outside of Meridian and then drive back to Meridian to work. This next category is going to be outdoorsy people. I know a lot of you guys moving here, you're moving to Boise because you want the outdoors, you want the hiking trails, you want the mountain biking trails, you want to be close to the ski resorts and everything that there is to do outdoors, including the Boise River. And so I'll start with the Boise River. Obviously it runs all the way through Eagle. Star has it. And so that was one thing on the small town feel, that Star and Eagle do have the Boise River, which Kuna does not. So if you want small town and an outdoorsy feel, Star and Eagle are going to be on your list. But the Boise River obviously has the greenbelt. And then the big one is going to be all of the foothills right along here. If you're an outdoorsy person and you want to be 5 to 10 minutes from those trails, you're going to want to live in Eagle and Boise. Especially a lot of this stuff right in here, Warm Springs Mesa, the East End, the North End's a really popular one. You have Camel's Back Park in there, which is a super popular trail just outside of Boise. And then around this whole area is hundreds of miles of hiking trails, mountain biking trails. There's a ton to do out here. But if you want to spend more money, Eagle, as I said, is super expensive. You have Hidden Springs. So Hidden Springs is actually a good one. That's a small town feel, but you're off in the mountains. Feel like you're in a little mountain town, but you have hundreds of miles of hiking trails and wildlife preserves out here. And then Eagle itself is also close to, you have Eagle Bike Park, you have trails out in here that you can go hiking at. And so this is going to be the main area that you want to live if you want to be close to the outdoor things to do. Everything over here, there's not really any outdoor things. All of the neighborhoods have trails, but to get into the trails, you do have to drive in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. The next section is going to be commute time. So I'll go over this one pretty quick. If you live in Caldwell, it's going to be an hour, sometimes 2 hours if traffic's bad. Nampa, it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what part of Nampa you live. Kuna, I talked about a little bit, but it's actually, it looks farther away, but because you have a good road system, 55 mile an hour down Meridian Road, it's actually only 30 to 40 minutes into Boise. Star can be more like 40 to 50, sometimes an hour if State Street's busy. Eagle, you're going to be 15 to 20 minutes into Boise, 15 into Meridian, 15 into Star. And then Middleton is going to be the same as Caldwell at an hour. So if commutes are important to you, it'll depend where you work, but I'm just going to work off of a generalization, which is a lot of you will be working in the Boise area if you have a job here, if you're not remote. Micron's out here, obviously all the stuff downtown Boise, a lot of the hospitals, I know a lot of you are moving here as nurses, are going to be in Boise, and then the one in Meridian. If that's the case, Meridian, Kuna, Boise, Eagle, this is going to be a lot of where you're going to be focusing in on. And then a lot of the traffic stuff that I talked about. So Meridian and Boise are going to be a lot busier. And if you don't want that, but you still want the closer commutes to Boise, you're going to want to be in South Meridian. Now, just threw a lot of stuff at you guys. Hopefully it was helpful. It's a little bit harder because a lot of these aren't personalized. They're just more generalized questions that I've gotten through the comments. But again, I'm going to do this show frequently. And so in the next one, whoever commented in this video specifically down below, by the time I make the next one, I will answer all of those questions in the comments for the next video and shout you guys out. But thank you guys for watching. And if you want a better overview where I go through every single suburb in more detail, watch this video here. I told you how important that was. It's one of the most important decisions in moving to Boise, which is the whole reason I'm making this series, is to make it more personalized and more educational to give you guys an opportunity. But Thank you guys for watching. I look forward to meeting you guys.